All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our weekly call. Matt Ham here. Thank you all so much for joining us. Really appreciate you taking time out of your day. I know that sometimes it may seem a bit repetitive or routine to just jump on a call. And as I've always said, I don't want this to be another meeting. I really think it can be valuable time if you take it and let it sink in and utilize it as a tool for your own success and in the communities and where you guys are located. I really appreciate Ted brought something up from a call a couple weeks ago, and he just reminded us today as we were talking in the pre-call that action plus enthusiasm leads to momentum. So if you're finding yourself kind of in a stale place, action versus plus enthusiasm are always going to lead to that momentum that you need. And once you get that train rolling, it's a heck of a lot easier to keep it going than it is to stop it, and certainly a lot of energy to get it started. So that action is what gets you going. That's a good thing there, Ted. Thank you for the reminder today, brother. I've got a cool story for you guys today. This is going to be fun. I'm just going to go ahead and jump right in. Story time with Uncle Matt. May 2nd, 1844, there was a young man born. His name was Elijah J. McCoy. He was the son of runaway slaves. His mother and father were in the Ohio area, and when slavery was at its peak, they got connected with the Underground Railroad and made their way into Canada to escape the slave state that they were in at the time. And so Elijah McCoy was born out of slavery in Canada, and his parents worked very diligently to save money, and they wanted to provide every opportunity for their son to get a wonderful and great education. But as you can imagine, in the late 1800s, a lot of universities just had no interest in having black students at their university. And so the parents researched and researched and researched, and they found out that their son would be able to go to school in Edinburgh, Scotland. And so when he was of age, they put him on a ship and they sent him across the Atlantic to go to school in Edinburgh, Scotland, Elijah McCoy. So in Scotland, Elijah McCoy studied mechanical engineering and graduated with a degree in mechanical engineering. And of course, this was a huge accomplishment for him. He was the top of his class. He was very, very smart and just a very astute, brilliant young man. And when he came back, his parents had since, I think this was now after slavery and abolition and so forth, and they had moved back into the States, and he wanted to get a job on the railroads. But again, just because slavery was over, there was still a lot of tension among the economic aspect in the industry, and they did not want to hire a black man to be a mechanical engineer. So Elijah McCoy had to settle for being a mechanic on the railroads. Now, back in that day and time, the railroads were kind of the primary way that goods and services were shipped. And so you had a massive industry that so much relied on. And one of the things about these steam engines, these steam locomotives, is they would have to stop every few miles to keep enough water on hand in the engine in order that the steam engine didn't overheat, right? And also too, with the braking systems and with the wheels, because it was this friction, a lot of these steam engines would catch fire because they could not keep the oil on the wheels. They could not keep the wheels lubricated. So Elijah McCoy had the task of going alongside the steam engine and the trains and keeping the wheels lubricated. And of course, he had this degree in mechanical engineering. And so he, being a mechanical engineer and being an entrepreneur and an innovator, he developed an oil system. They called it the McCoy Cup. And it was a system that he developed that would keep a dripping aspect of the oil on the wheels of these steam locomotives and these steam engine, these trains, so they didn't have to stop as much to oil up the wheels, and it helped reduce the fire and the danger. And as you can imagine, because it cut down the travel time on taking goods and services from place to place, because they didn't have to stop as much, these companies wanted this McCoy oil cup on all of their engines. And what happened is there was knockoff companies that started to come along, and they started to make counterfeit versions of this cup that did not work as well because they were not as intuitive and innovative. And so what began to emerge was a phrase that still exists in our vernacular today, in our language today, is they would say, "Is this the real McCoy cup?" The real McCoy. And so they began to ask when they were, doing their deals with the train companies, like, "Do you use the real McCoy? Is this the real McCoy?" All of that thanks to a young man named Elijah McCoy and his invention of the McCoy cup. It's interesting, Elijah McCoy went on to have 57 different patents in his life, but because he was a black man, a lot of times he didn't have the opportunity to capitalize on those patents. The companies that he worked for took over those patents, but he was a great innovator in the early American history of our country and the economy and the industry of railroad travel and so forth, and certainly goes down in history with having his name as part of a common saying we say today, the real McCoy. So you guys have heard this statement, I'm sure, being the real McCoy. Is this the real McCoy? Now, again, I know maybe in recent years you don't hear it used as much, but that phrase, the real McCoy, is certainly hanging around in a lot of our minds and our understanding. Now, I want to challenge you guys today because I'm going to ask you are you the real McCoy? Or are you trying to be a counterfeit? Now, that's a pressing question. I think it's hard sometimes for folks to really wrestle with that. But, one of the things that I see among salespeople, especially, that's very damaging and dangerous in your careers is the idea of comparison. I think that comparison is said that comparison is the thief of joy. But I would go so far to say that comparison is the thief of purpose. Comparison is the thief of purpose. When you begin to live by comparison as your metric, you begin to give away your very purpose and your very identity because you're trying to be like someone else, or you're trying to imitate or mirror someone else instead of being the very best version of yourself. We live down here at the ocean, and one of the things I love about beach houses is that they build the decks on the beach houses to look at the majesty of the ocean. If you go to a beach house, the deck is facing the ocean. The decks are not facing the other houses. But in our lives, because of social media culture and just because of the American way, in our lives and our careers, oftentimes we build decks on the side of our houses, if you will, our proverbial houses, and we look more at our neighbors than the majesty of kind of the creation around us or where we're going. And so today, I want to challenge you all with this idea of being the real McCoy and tapping into authenticity in your life, especially as a salesperson. And so a lot of times I know in sales, it's very difficult because you start to compare yourself to other people. Well, how am I doing compared to them? You've got a board, right? The sales board. The scoreboard, if you will. People want to put the scoreboard up. And it's necessary in sales because we like to keep track of things, Competition in that realm is healthy. It can be healthy. But it can also be very damaging because we start to go, well, I'm just not good enough. I'll never be like them. Or my community doesn't have this. Or I don't. And you start to think about all of your deficiencies and what you don't have. And you live by competition and you live by comparison instead of living by what makes you you, living by what makes you unique, and living by what makes you excellent. I remember when I was in sales at Farm Bureau Insurance is where I was, North Carolina Farm Bureau. There are farm bureaus across the states. I think there's 16 states that participate with Farm Bureau, and they're all loosely affiliated. But in North Carolina Farm Bureau, when I was there, it was a very competitive environment. There were 800 agents in the state of North Carolina, and we had an internal ranking system. And every day you could go on and you could see where you ranked among your peers in like 30 different lines of business. So it wasn't just about selling houses. I mean, we had auto insurance premium, home insurance premium, life insurance premium, life insurance volume. How many policies did you keep on the books? What was your retention rate? How many cancellations did you have? How many claims did you have? And there was all these different lines of business that we were ranked and rated on. And I remember I got into a lot of trouble. You guys who know me well enough by now know that I kind of push against the grain. And I had actually finished third in the entire company at North Carolina Farm Bureau. And I remember that year they asked me if I would represent the agency force at the home office for this annual kind of meeting of the minds. It was like a mastermind thing where they got all the different agents, top agents from all the states. They brought them all in and they asked me to come down there. And I remember raising my hand in the middle of the CEO, the CFO, the VP of this, the VP of that, the whole C-level team. And I said, "What is success at our company?" And I remember one of the head guys looked back and he said, "It's winning the round table, which was our most prestigious honor." And I asked him, I said, "Well, then how many of the agents actually win round table?" And they said 18%. And I said, "Do you realize that the story that you're telling as an organization is that 82% of the team are failures?" And y'all, I might have said this before, I can't remember if I have or not. One of the gentlemen who was in charge, he said, honestly, 20% of the people should be taken out back and shot. True story. And I went, holy cow. Now, every organization has to have standards of excellence. And if you are a salesperson on a sales team where you don't do your job and actually sell things, then it probably stands to reason that you need to find a new career. But I am a firm believer that every single person on the team matters, and every single personality and every single gift set matters. You're going to have people that are more driven and they have high numbers and they're going to go out there and they're going to be the number one guy. It's just like a quarterback or a wide receiver or a running back on a football team. But you also have offensive linemen, you have tight ends, you have fullbacks, you have all of the different elements that make a team a team. And so for you guys in your own communities, it's very unique. Y'all are individuals. You get to run your own business, if you will, but you also exist as part of a team. So when it comes down to it, this idea of being the real McCoy, being authentic, and not living by constant comparison, I challenge you to do an assessment. What are your strengths, your true strengths? Like, how does the room change when you step into it? Think about that. What makes you excellent? What makes you wonderful, right? Also, too, what are your greatest assets? Some of you are probably excellent on the phone. Some of you not so much. Some of you are better in person. Focus on your assets. Focus on your strengths and capitalize on them instead of living by constant comparison. You know, I was talking to one of the managers at one of our communities, and I said, when you're looking at the team and when you're looking at even your own gift set, like we talk about doing broker calls, going out to the community and calling on general brokers and presenting stuff, or maybe hosting dinners where our residents can bring a friend and come in and have like a nice dinner for them. Thinking of creative ways that you can continue to present these incredible communities to the marketplace around you. Find your niche, what makes you great, and then pour into that. Pour into that. I remember when I first started in insurance sales, I was kind of struggling. You know, it's tough to get started, but one of the things that I could do is I could play the guitar. And so I would, in the evenings, go out to local bars and restaurants, and I would actually play live music and use it as an opportunity to connect with people. And I had a business card, and I would always share it and say, hey, if you ever need music, let me know. But also, too, I have an insurance career, and I'd love to help. Now, I wasn't going to blow the world away by selling insurance at bars and restaurants, but it did happen. And I made relationships and connections with bar owners and bar managers that ended up getting insurance from me down the road. And so think about the things that make you you and how you can integrate that into how you thrive and function in every area of excellence in your own communities. So today, think about Elijah McCoy, who created and invented this incredible device, the McCoy oil cup. And everybody knew how good it was. So they said, is this a counterfeit? Is it fake? Or is it the real McCoy? And so for you guys, when you engage with your communities, when you engage with your customers, be the real McCoy, the best, most excellent, authentic version of you. And that is what is going to make you incredibly successful in your own little sphere. And do not worry about the comparison and the competition. I promise you, if you focus on being you, you focus on being authentic, the rest has a way of taking care of itself. That's it for today's call, guys. Be the real McCoy. Be authentic. Hope you enjoyed it. If anybody wants to connect personally, reach out to me, Matt at uprint.life or 910-619-4644. You guys have an incredible week. Always here for if you need anything. See ya.